Making extra payments on a $38,000 student loan cost one person exactly $78,552 in lost wealth. This sounds crazy, but it's the mathematical reality of the interest gap. According to S&P Dow Jones, the stock market returned 12.5% annually for the last decade, while that 6.7% loan felt expensive but wasn't. In the next few minutes, I'll give you the 4-tier framework to know exactly when to pay off debt and when to invest, based on the latest data from the Federal Reserve. To understand this framework, we need to build it from the ground up. First, let's define the most dangerous category. Tier 1. Toxic, D-E-B-T. But before we identify what is toxic, we have to agree on the antidote. That antidote is the interest gap. This concept is the mathematical difference between the interest rate your debt charges you and the potential return rate you could earn by investing that same money. It sounds simple, but as we saw in the opening, getting this wrong can cost you the price of a luxury car or a substantial down payment on a home. We need a benchmark. You cannot calculate a gap if you don't know what you are comparing against. When we talk about investing, we need a realistic historical benchmark based on a decade of data from S&P Dow Jones indices ending in December 2024. A simple S&P 500 index fund has returned about 12.5% per year. This figure includes reinvested dividends and accounts for the compounding growth of the 500 largest companies in the U.S. economy. While past performance doesn't guarantee future results, this 12.5% is the data-driven baseline for opportunity cost. Every time you use a dollar to pay off debt, you are potentially giving up the ability for that dollar to earn 12.5%. With that benchmark set, we can now clearly define Tier 1, toxic debt. This is any debt with an interest rate greater than 10%. This is the danger zone. It is debt with an interest rate so high that no reliable investment in the world can consistently outperform it. You might have a great year in the stock market and make 20%, but you cannot rely on that every single year. Toxic debt is relentless. It compounds against you regardless of market conditions. The prime example of this is credit card debt. According to the Federal Reserve's latest G19 Consumer Credit Report from Q4 2024, the average interest rate on credit card accounts, assessed interest, is now 21.47%. This isn't just a number, it's a financial emergency. Let's do the math on the interest gap here. If the market gives you a potential 12.5% and your credit card takes a guaranteed 21.47%, your interest gap is negative 8.97%. You are losing nearly 9% of your wealth's power every year by holding this debt. Conversely, paying this off is a guaranteed tax-free return of 21.47%. There is no investment manager on Wall Street who can promise you a guaranteed 21% return, but you can give it to yourself by eliminating Tier 1 debt. Let's make this concrete with a story. Meet Alex. Alex is a friend of our main character, Maya, who we will meet shortly. Alex represents the path most people take because it feels responsible. Alex has a typical financial profile. He has a $38,375 student loan with a 6.7% interest rate. He also has a $5,000 balance on a credit card charging that average 21.47% rate. After all his expenses, he has a monthly surplus of $500. Alex is feeling overwhelmed. He looks at his student loan balance, almost $40,000. and it feels like a mountain. He looks at his credit card and it's annoying, but the balance is smaller. He doesn't know which debt to tackle, so he decides to do what feels fair. He thinks about splitting his $500 surplus, sending $250 extra to the student loan, and $250 to the credit card. He thinks he is fighting a war on two fronts. The four-tier framework tells Alex to stop immediately. He must ignore the student loan for now. Completely. He must allocate 100% of his $500 monthly surplus to the credit card debt. Why? Because of the math of the toxic tier. Every dollar sent to the student loan saves him 6.7%. Every dollar sent to the credit card saves him 21.47%. By focusing his fire entirely on the toxic debt, Alex saves himself over $1,000 in interest charges in the first-year loan compared to the split strategy. He clears the high-interest debt much faster, stopping the bleeding. The lesson for Alex and for you is that Tier 1 debt is not a loan. It is a fire. You do not remodel the kitchen, invest, or mow the lawn. Pay low-interest debt while the house is on fire. You put the fire out. Now that we've extinguished the fire of Tier 1, we move into the murkier waters. This is where most people get stuck and lose massive amounts of potential wealth. We are entering the debate between Tier 2 and Tier 3. Tier 2 is what I call heavy drag debt. These are loans with interest rates between 7% and 10%. This often includes high-interest used car loans or private student loans that don't qualify for federal protections. The math here still generally favors paying down debt, but it is less of a screaming emergency than Tier 1. If your loan is at 9%, and the market benchmark is 12.5%, the gap is positive but slim. When you factor in taxes on your investment gains and the risk of a down market, that gap narrows further. For Tier 2, the framework generally suggests aggressive repayment, simply to remove the drag on your cash flow. But then we arrive at Tier 3. Neutral debt. This is defined as debt with interest rates between 4% and 7%. This is the most debated category in personal finance. This tier includes the vast majority of mortgages and federal student loans. It is here that the math clearly begins to separate from the emotion. In this tier, the math overwhelmingly favors investing, yet this is where people feel the most guilt. Let's look at the specific data for Tier 3. According to the Freddie Mac Primary Mortgage Market Survey from December 2024, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate sits at 6.7%. This isn't a hypothetical number. This is what millions of homeowners are facing. Many federal student loans fall into this exact same range. So, let's calculate the interest GAP. We have our S&P 500 benchmark at 12.5%. We have our Tier 3 debt cost at 6.7%. The calculation is 12.5 minus 6.7, which equals a positive 5.8% gap. This 5.8% is the wealth you are forfeiting every single time you decide to pay down this loan early instead of investing. Okay, that's a lot of percentages. Let's make this crystal clear with a real-world story. Meet Maya. Her situation is going to show you how a simple decision can create a $78,000 difference in your net worth. Maya is 32 years old, working as a senior marketing manager. Based on Bureau of Labor Statistics data for professionals in her age bracket, she earns a salary of $62,000 per year. Her income is solid, She lives within her means, and like Alex, she has exactly $500 of investable surplus every month. Maya's balance sheet is cleaner than Alex's. She has no credit card debt. Her only major liability is a student loan. To make this realistic, we're giving Maya the average student loan balance, which, according to 2024 data from the Department of Education, is $38,375 per borrower. Her interest rate is fixed at 6.7%. Maya feels immense psychological pressure. Everywhere she looks on social media, she sees influencers screaming about being debt-free. She feels like that student loan is a chain around her neck. This cultural narrative tells her to throw her entire $500 monthly surplus at the loan to kill it as fast as possible. She wants that feeling of freedom, but Maya is analytical. She pauses and looks at the interest gap. She calculates that 5.8% differential we just discussed. She asks herself, is paying this off the fastest way to build wealth, or just the fastest way to feel relief? Maya decides to follow the math, not the emotion. She classifies her 6.7% loan as Tier 3, neutral debt. She decides to make only the minimum required payments on her student loan. She takes her $500 monthly surplus and invests it automatically into an S&P 500 index fund like VOO or IVV. She commits to this for 10 years. Let's fast forward a decade. What happened? Her friend, let's say it was a reformed Alex, decided to attack the same loan aggressively. Alex paid off the loan years early. He saved about $24,000 in interest payments. He feels great. He has a paid-in-full letter on his fridge. But because he poured all his surplus into the loan, his investment account balance from that surplus is zero. Now look at Maya. She kept the loan for the full term. She paid more in interest. But that $500 a month, compounding at an annual average of 12.5% for 10 years, has grown into a staggering sum. Her investment account balance is now $129,560. When you subtract the extra interest she paid compared to Alex and compare their final net worth positions, Maya comes out ahead by exactly $78,552. That is the cost of the debt-free feeling. Alex paid $78,000 for the privilege of saying he has no debt. Maya has a lower net cost and a six-figure investment portfolio. That is the power of the interest GAP. Now that you've seen the math for Maya, which tier does your biggest loan fall into? Comment tier 1, 2, 3, or 4 below. I'm curious to see the breakdown in the community and help you validate your strategy. We've covered the bad and the borderline. Now for the final category, tier 4, where debt actually becomes a tool for wealth. This is what I call strategic DEBT. This is any debt with an interest rate below 4%. If you have a mortgage from 2020 or 2021, or an older student loan in this range, you are in this category. For Tier 4, paying it off early is almost always a financial mistake. To understand why, we have to introduce a new concept: the real interest rate. The interest rate on your paper statement is the nominal rate, but money changes value over time due to inflation. To find the real cost of your debt, you must subtract the inflation rate from your interest rate. The Bureau of Labor Statistics just reported the latest inflation numbers at 2.7% for the 12 months ending November 2024. This is a critical number. Let's say you have a car loan or a mortgage at 3.5%. The bank charges you 3.5%, but inflation is eating away the value of the dollar at 2.7%. Your real interest rate, the actual purchasing power cost to you, is only 0.8%. That is 3.5 minus 2.7. You are borrowing money essentially for free. The bank is lending you money that is losing value almost as fast as they are charging you interest. In this scenario, this debt is actually an asset. You are holding on to a large sum of the bank's money, your loan principal, which you can keep invested in your own assets like stocks or real estate, growing at 12.5%, while you pay the bank back with cheaper and cheaper dollars over time. Even a completely safe high-yield savings account, which bank rate surveys in Q4 2024 show is paying up to 5% APY, would be a better choice. You could literally put your surplus in a savings account, earn 5%, pay the 3.5% loan, and pocket the 1.5% difference risk-free. But I know what some of you are thinking. This math is great, but I just want to be debt-free. There's a powerful psychological reason for this feeling, backed by data, which explains why our brains fight this logic. We'll break that down right now. The desire to be debt-free is not just a preference. It's a deep-seated psychological drive. It represents safety, security, and freedom from obligation. These are valid human needs. However, the financial industry often preys on this need to keep you from building real wealth. If you pay off a 3% mortgage, the bank loves it. They get their capital back and can lend it out to someone else today at 7%. You are doing the bank a favor. Why does this math feel so wrong to so many of us? If the numbers are so clear, why did Alex choose the wrong path? A 2025 study from the TIAA Institute and the Global Financial Literacy Excellence Center, GFLEC, offers a clue. It found that millennials scored just 36% on risk comprehension questions. This low score suggests a pervasive difficulty in accurately assessing financial trade-offs. This creates a powerful bias for the certain win of debt payoff over the probable win of investing. We prefer to eliminate a 3% known cost rather than bet on a 12% probable gain, even when the odds are heavily in our favor over a 10 or 20-year timeline. The framework I'm giving you today is designed to override that bias. It allows you to acknowledge the emotion, but act on the data. It gives you permission to carry debt when the math says it's profitable, and the urgency to destroy debt when the math says it's toxic. Let's recap the 4-tier framework so you can apply this immediately. Tier 1 is toxic debt. Anything over 10% interest. This is a financial emergency. Pay it off immediately. Tier 2 is heavy drag, 7 to 10%. Pay it down, but don't panic. Tier 3 is neutral debt, 4 to 7%. This is the key battleground. For most people with a long time horizon, the math of the interest gap overwhelmingly favors investing over extra debt payments, just as Maya's $78,552 example proved. And Tier 4 is strategic debt, under 4%. Keep this debt as long as possible. It is an asset in an inflationary environment. Here are your specific action steps to take this week. First, the immediate step. Log into every loan account you have right now. List the interest rate next to the balance. Categorize each one into Tier 1, 2, 3, or 4. Do not guess. look at the statements. Second, the short-term step. If you have any Tier 1 debt, reroute every single penny of extra cash to it. If you are currently paying extra on a Tier 3 student loan while holding a Tier 1 credit card balance, stop immediately. Reroute that money. If you have no Tier 1 debt, open an investment account if you haven't already. Finally, the long-term step. Make investing your surplus automatic. Set up an auto transfer for the day after payday. Trust the process of the interest GAAP. The hardest part is not the math. It's the discipline to keep investing that surplus rather than spending it once you decide not to pay down the debt. If this framework gave you clarity on your numbers, hit the like button so I know to make more content like this. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video, where we'll break down how to choose the right index fund to actually get that 12.5% return. And please, share this video with one friend who is stressing out about whether to pay off their student loans or invest. This content is for educational purposes only and is not personal financial advice. All numbers are based on data from the Federal Reserve, S&P Dow Jones, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics as of December 2024. Investment returns are never guaranteed, and past performance does not predict future results. Please research and consult with a qualified financial professional before making any investment decisions.